Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 3/30/2022, and today is the Odin Project Vlog Day 83. And today I worked on Advanced Grid Properties, number 4. And so let's just get started here. I'm 91% complete with Intermediate HTML and CSS. I spent a long time on this evening and late afternoon on this one. There's a lot of information here. Take your time and go over it. For the sake of the video speed and length, I won't go over this information because there are two exercises at the very end, grid layout 2 and 3, that I want to hit up. There's a lot of good information here, though. I would love to go over it with you if I had more time. There's a lot to it, and even look at the knowledge checks, real beefy. So there's just a lot to it. It's actually, in a nutshell, a real big nutshell, it's basically how to make your grids responsive, so that when you expand or contract a page, it resizes like Flexbox does, and you can do that with Grid, and it's pretty cool. Still learning a lot along the way, but that's essentially what this whole thing's about. So with that said, let's just get started. So we're going to start by talking about going over Grid Layout 2, and then we'll do Grid Layout 3. Out of the same CSS repo we were working out of yesterday, or previously in the last video. So again, I'm not going to go over the definitions and the different syntax, so I hope that you have read through this module already, and if you haven't, maybe pause the video and then come back and watch this again after you've had a chance to read through the material and give a go at layout 2 and 3. So without further ado, let's hit the editor. So here is the first one you work on. This is layout 2, and here's your basic boilerplate. You got your container with a header, a sidebar, nav, article. It's actually the same thing we had last time, except all we're doing is making it responsive. So it's the exact same structure, exact same everything as layout 1 that we did in the last video exercise, but this one is just making it responsive, and really the only thing, it takes you like 30 seconds to do, because the only thing you do really is you go to actually, I probably should show you. So here's what it looks like before you start. I remember this time. Aren't you guys proud of me? I remember this time, took screenshots. So this is what it looks like, just everything piled on top of each other when you get started. And let's see here. Let's go over to grid 2. Oh, and this is what I was talking about yesterday about fetching your ups. This is where you go if you're out of sync with the parent. If your fork is out of sync, you do fetch upstream and merge. It says no new commits to fetch. Enjoy your day. So this is what I clicked yesterday. Sorry, I'm a day late and a dollar short on that, but I just remember that. So anyway, going to grid layout 2, and it says for this exercise we're going to take our holy grail layout from the first exercise and make it responsive. To do this, we'll simply change our fixed track size to be dynamic. Consider this a warm-up to the next exercise, and make sure your layout is responding properly when resizing the browser. Hence, you only need to add to the CSS selectors, use dynamic track sizes for your column and rows, and that's the key. When the browser is narrow, this is what it would look like, and when the browser is stretched wide, that's what it would look like. Self-check, I won't read through those, the exact same ones as before. The only difference is the tracks do not use static size, no pixels, and the addition of rows and columns stretch wider when making the browser window bigger, and the rows and columns stretch taller when making the browser window smaller. Other than that, the exact same exercise as one. And so here's what you end up getting. This is coming off my live server. So here's the full size, and see there it is, minimized. See how it expands vertically and shrinks horizontally. And you simply get that by going over here to, I believe in the last exercise we had, did we use FR? Sorry guys, having a brain lapse here. Okay, so basically we changed it from pixels to using FR, which if you remember from the reading is fractional unit. So that's the only difference. So we have one just from the requirements. So our grid template column, we have one fractional unit, and then the second one is 3 times the size, so 3 fractional units. And then we're using a repeat function to do the template rows. So it's going to repeat 2 times with 1 FR each. And then we're going to do one single 5 FR, which you remember the third one is just like before was 5 times the size of the others, and then we had 1 FR at the end. If you need help, you can look back or just check this out right here, and you'll see real quick here. This is what we had from yesterday, so we're just doing 1 FR, 3 FR, and then repeat 2, 1 FR to get this. Remember, the pixels are just arbitrary numbers. Don't let that confuse you. It's irrelevant. And then 5 times the on the third, so 1 FR or 5 FR on that, and then another 1 FR. So, and that's how you get that. And gap's still 15 pixels, so nothing else changes. So all that does is makes it dynamic and responsive by basically changing and using the fractional units, because it's basing it on the viewport. So, and that's all for that one. So quick and simple, and then we get to the beast. So layout 3 is a beast for sure. So let's go over that now. So now we have Holy Grail mockup with grid. Now that you've made your Holy Grail layout responsive, we're going to have some fun making it a bit more complicated and adding some features. You might find this to be a bit more challenging than you expected, and it was. I still think it was easier than using Flexbox, but because there's a little less finagling you have to do with different CSS attributes, but it's still challenging for sure because it's a different way of thinking of things. You might even be tempted to use Flexbox, which I was, but for the sake of this practical assignment, try and see if you can figure out how to recreate this entire mockup using only grid. Feel free to add in your own dummy content or styling too. Hints, it says, take the layout one section at a time. You don't need to add or change anything to the HTML, but it would be helpful to look through the parent and child relationships between the elements. You only need to add to the current CSS selector, so this is similar to last time. Just like with Flexbox, you can easily center an item by making it into a grid. Didn't know that, but that's good to know. Don't worry about the placeholder image element stretching when resizing the browser. This will be covered in responsive lessons. So they're talking about that, so basically don't worry about that one as far as it resizing. And here's the desired outcome. And then here's the desired outcome if you stretch it out. So you see how it's responsive. There's more cards per row, and as you stretch, and it takes away rows. So that's kind of the behavior we're after. Self-check. I'm going to run through these real fast. Container element has 2 columns. The container's second column is 4 times larger than the first. The container element has a gap of 4 pixels. The header element has 2 columns. The UL inside the menu element contains another grid. The UL inside the nav element contains another grid. The sidebar element has a gap of 50. The text elements in the sidebar are centered with grid. The article elements should set columns using repeat along with autofit and min-max properties. Article columns should have a minimum value of 250 and a maximum of 1 FR. The article element should have a gap of 15. The card elements inside the article container have a height of 200. The header and footer span across multiple across both columns. The sidebar only spans across the first column. The nav and article elements only span across the second. Yeah, I went through that really fast. So pause me if you want to look at that again. But that's it's a beefy project. It is. It's not crazy hard like we've seen before, but it's a challenge. So here is what you get when you start out. It's just a big plop of mess here. And that's what you start out with. Let's hit the editor here. So I'm going to do my best to attempt to explain the CSS from the top down. I may flip back and forth a little bit depending on time to show you the requirements list we just flew over. Again, we're not changing the HTML. We're just getting a good idea for the structure of it. So knowing, what child is of what parent, is in the hints section said, is a good thing to know. I did get hung up on a few of those, header logo being one of them actually. I had to work through a little bit. So it's pretty basic as far as HTML goes. No gotchas, just understanding what's a sibling and what's a descendant child, because that will affect how your almost said flexbox, how your grid behaves. So we start at the top here. This stuff's given to you, so I'm gonna try to just cover what I added. In container, we start out by creating a display grid for the container, because that's, as it sounds, it wraps the entire kit and caboodle. You have grid template columns, 1FR and 4FR. So what that's going to do is create one fractional unit across, and then a second one at 4 times the size of the first. So again, we're making that responsive. That's why we're using fractionals, so that it will respond when we're expanding or collapsing. Gap is 4 pixels as per the requirements. And then we didn't do anything with container div. Header, we come down here and we just create a display grid. On some of these is because we do this because there's a couple things. We either need it to be a grid because it has a child element inside of it, like this is going to have the child of the header logo, so we wanted to target that. So we have to make the parent a grid, or you do it because, in this, at least for this exercise, you do it because you just simply need to center the element, and you use grid to do. You can use grid to do that. They're saying you can. I don't know if that's best practice or not, but I'm just doing what it said. And then you have grid template columns of 1 fractional unit and 2 fractional units. And so again, we're creating inside of header, we're just basically creating 2 columns, and the second one's double the first in size. And then I skipped this. We had grid column 1 to 3, so we're going to span from line 1 to line 3. And I think I will bring up, because I'm a visual guy, I'm sure you guys are too, so I'm going to show you this. I've got DevTools on with the grids. Well, we'll turn the main grid on so you can see kind of, I don't want to clutter it up with too many grids, but excuse me. So grid column 1, 3 on the header, so 1 and then 3 times the size. That's how you get that. Or excuse me, 1 to 2. Sorry. The grid column 1, 3 is the span. So we're going to start here and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So it's spanning the entire layout, if you will. Logo, we self-justify to start. So if logo is the header logo, which is just simply this right here. So self-justify start. So we're telling it we want to start, which basically it adds it to the start of the grid, the grid box, if you will, grid item. Menu align self-center. So menu is the second sibling here, and that has your header links inside of it. So these are your menu items: header 1, header link 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to align them center. I don't have that on, but these would be, if I had to, I don't want to put too many grid lines on to confuse you, but they're header link 1, 2, 3, 4. This is actually a grid inside of a grid, so these are centered inside of each individual cell. And then we created a grid display for menu targeting UL, which is, again, kind of redundant, but this is creating this part's actually creating I kind of got ahead of myself. This is creating that secondary grid I just said. And then you have repeat, which we're going to repeat for 1FR. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 for the 4 header links, and 1FR each, meaning that they're the same size for each one. And that makes it responsive as well. Down here for menu UL and menu LI, list style type none. What that does, if you remember from a long time ago, list style type none takes away, these are actually LI lists, so that will take away the bulleted dots that you had originally here. So that does that. Sidebar, we have display grid. So sidebar is the div here. That's this right here. This is your sidebar. So it's going to be displayed as a grid, and it's going to span grid rows 2 through 4. So here's grid line 1, or row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, and we're going to go to 4. Excuse me. So 1, 2. So we're starting at 2, going to 4. 3, 4. 3 is right here, or yeah, 3 is right here, which is weird. I know it's kind of weird to understand, but that's just the way the layout's designed, because originally in our container we didn't define a remember, this is explicit because we didn't implicitly, or it's implicit because we didn't explicitly define rows in the original container. Sorry, this video is going to go long. I figured it probably would. I'm just going to keep rolling through it here. Sidebar and photo. We didn't do any. I don't remember doing. I don't think it did anything with that. Photo is grid and align item center. So photo is the next div down, so it's a child of sidebar. So this is your photo here. So we're going to align it center inside of the grid cell and make it a grid as well to help centering. And it allows you to do the box 1, 2, 3, 4, which is up next. So we have we did nothing with the side content. That's just CSS styling. The nav is the where'd my sidebar side content? I need to skip down to side content. Where's my side content? Box 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I guess we didn't have to do anything with that. So, because anyway. Going to nav. Nav's this up here. Latest articles, most watched, featured. We have a grid column of 2. So, that's going to have it just span the width of the single column there. Or, well, I guess it'd be column, yep, from 2 to the end. And the UL is the inside of nav you have the latest there's your UL for latest articles most viewed and featured. It's a grid, and we're doing a repeat 3 1FR, which means it's going to repeat 3 1FR blocks. And the grid style, we're setting it to none, meaning we're getting rid of the bullet points, bold list on those. And then we have the, we didn't do anything with the UL UI for nav. Article, it's a display grid. This is probably one of the most important pieces. So this is, most of this is from it comes right out of the requirements. They tell you that you need to use autofit min-max 250 and 1FR on a repeat. They basically tell you to put that in article. And then rows, you want to add that to repeat 2 1FR on the, this is where we are going to explicitly define rows in the articles. So what it's going to do is it's going to create 2 rows and 1FR each, and that will change as you move the resolution around or the sizing. See how it changed, but it still remains 2FR, 2FR or 1FR2, it's just going to keep creating that repeat there. And there you go. And so when it's fully expanded, it will just be that singular 1FR there on repeating it twice. Gap 15, that comes from the requirements. And article P, I don't think it did anything with that. Height 200, yeah, that's coming from the requirements. Padding 5 pixels, that's just that's for your card P. Card P is down here for your paragraph text. The article titles, that's just to a cosmetic thing so that you get a little bit of padding in between here of 5 pixels. Card titles, I don't think I did anything with that. And then the last thing I did anything with was the footer. Grid column span 1 to 3. So that's going to do the same thing as a header. It's going to span it from column line 1 to column line 3, which is the end. There's your 2 right there. So I know I went really fast and this went really long, and I didn't mean for that. I figured this was going to be beefy, but I didn't want to skip anything, so I may have went a little quick, so feel free to rewatch this again for more further understanding. Thank you for coming along with the ride today. I hope you learned something along the way. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content, and let me know in the comments how you guys did on this first go at a big project for Grid. So with all that said, till next time, see ya.